Hey, you two! Pay attention! Get your hands off of our pension!
Yeah, can you just tell us a bit about why you're striking today?
Okay. Our employers, as a collective, so all the universities in the UK are represented by the pension body that's called UCU, and what they're saying is that our pension, they're saying two things. They're saying our pension's unsustainable, which we don't accept, and they're saying that in response to that, what they're going to do is to completely change the basis of the pension, so that instead of knowing what you're going to get at the end of your very long academic career, it will depend entirely on how the market's doing at that point.
Okay.
And the calculation that's been made so far is that the average union member will lose about £10,000 a year in retirement.
Okay.
So it's a massive attack.
I see that you're getting a lot of support from passers-by and from students and stuff like that.
Well, because I think people can recognise, students can recognise, and the public can recognise that this is actually an attack on university, publicly funded university higher education. That's what it is. Because, universities are labour intensive, right? They always have been and they always will be. And when you attack the terms and conditions of your workforce, you're essentially decimating the sector. So people say to us, well, what about the students? And of course, we care about students. We care about all the students. This cohort, the next cohort, all the cohorts to come. We care about all of them. And I tell you, if we lose this fight, the universities and students in 5 and 10 years' time will be facing will look very different to the ones they have been.
So we're going on strike. 2.5 years ago we were involved in a dispute around pensions. They were making some changes. They decided that they would, we came to an agreement then, and they said that those changes would last for a long time. We're looking like 2.5 years since, and they're kind of making really significant changes, which really breaches that agreement, but also is a kind of real threat. It means that in retirement we'd be looking at a loss of about £10,000 a year. But it's also, so the pensions is one big reason why I'm here, but I'm also here because the higher education sector more generally is getting increasingly becoming about a market. It's becoming about money and less about the kind of values of higher education that people like me and Andy and all of us here are committed to that broader vision of what higher education is about, rather than it being a kind of marketplace. So,
of course.
So
what would you say to people who are some students feel ripped off by the fact that they're missing teaching time? The people that are paying, £9,000 in fees and things. What would you say to that?
They've got to ask what kind of higher education they want and why they're at university. If they want a higher education system, as Dave says, that is about defending the sorts of things that universities are supposed to be there to provide, then they need to, they need a sector where people have proper pensions, proper salaries, and also where it's not turned into just a commodity for sale.
The way I see it is the lecturers are the first line of defence. There's 42,000 lecturers that have walked out today across the country in 62 establishments. Year upon year, lecturers have been attacked. We've seen cuts taking place in the educational establishments. And it's as simple as this. People say, well, why should we support our lecturers? Why shouldn't we? Lecturers have given their heart and soul to this university, to other universities, further education establishments to support students when they were being attacked. Now the lecturers need our support.
Students are worried about crossing the picket line, they're worried about missing classes and
well,
things like
students should not miss classes.
Okay.
So what we would ask students is to take some solidarity action, stand with us, talk to us. But if you've got a class you need to go to the class. What we are asking here is employees of Glasgow University, UCU members and academic members, to not cross the picket line.
Okay.
We certainly we don't want to ask students not to attend classes.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And the next question you would maybe ask me is what about classes that are missed? Would they be examined? And
Yes, yeah.
we're very clear on that, and I've told my students you will not be examined on classes that have not been delivered.
Okay.
I know that in my area, what we're going to do is after the strike action, we take stock of what wasn't delivered, and then we will think of how we adjust the exams to accommodate that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So what would you say to students who are a bit hesitant to support the strike?
Well, I don't know, I think the strike is really important, partly because if our staff are in terrible conditions and have terrible pay, that impacts on our learning conditions, because that's obviously where we're learning. And I also think this is part of the fight for free education and education that's not run for profit and is actually run for staff and run for students. So I think that's a really important thing for students, that we're not just here to make profit for someone else, that we're actually here to learn. I think this is part of the wider struggle for that. So students should all join in, don't go to class and come and join the picket.
And it's a slippery slope. We're doing this today so that tomorrow universities are going to be completely privatised and there are going to be lecturers who can do their jobs and be paid to do real research and real teaching.
Yeah, I study community development. I'm with the School of Education.
Okay.
I'm a class representative as well, and our classes have fully supported the strike action for our lecturers.
Right. Can you tell us a bit about why you're supporting the strike?
Well, because the university putting more pressure on lecturers has a direct effect on the students and our studies. And also it's just the principle of supporting your lecturers, people who are putting time in your studies, having pensions at the end of their career, and I think it's a principal matter, and it's not an issue of whether or not you lose 10 days of studying. It's what's important is that people get what their rights are, and I think that's why most students have come out in support of the strike.
Yeah, can you tell us about the support that the SRC is offering?
Yeah, so we obviously are kind of quite close to where the strikers are just now, so we've said that they're willing, they're able to use our coffee and tea in our kitchen to keep warm. Some of us have been standing outside chatting to them and have offered our support over Twitter and also contacting the UCU reps directly.
Great. So can you tell us about what you know about the strike?
I just know that they're cutting their pensions by was it 10 grand or something, and it's to do with the union they're part of. So.
Are you in support of the strike?
I think I know. I think it's a bit of a to be fair, it was probably me. But then no, because it's putting your students first and stuff. So it's a bit.
Okay.
There. I think I'd probably have more feelings towards it if it was involved.
The contrast between what the union are asking for and some of the salaries of vice chancellors and others making fortunes out of education, increasing their salary year on year, as though they were some form of oligarchs. What we're asking for is simple. We simply want the employers now to get back round the table and negotiate. A settlement is capable of being reached if the employers are reasonable. All we're asking for is a reasonable settlement that protects the pension for the future. Why? Well, if you're a student, you need to understand this. It's important that lecturers and university workers do this job, yes, largely not for the money, but as a vocation. But they have to live and have a decent living standard for themselves and their families as well. What this does, it compounds the assault that there's been on their wages and conditions by making sure as well that some of them will have a pension in which will thrust them into poverty when they retire. That's why we've got to stand firm on this.